What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to a new review. Well, over the past couple of months we've had many phones on the channel here, but the one that I could truly recommend to when you are looking for a good budget phone would be the Xiaomi Mi 5X, and mostly because it's cheap, it has great performance and also great cameras. Well, about a week ago I got another phone that blew my mind. This is Lenovo ZUK Z2 Pro, a phone that costs under $270 and offers amazing performance and value for its price. This phone looks and feels super premium, and it also performs just as good as a flagship device, and that's mostly because of the Snapdragon 820 that we have inside, the 6 gigs of RAM and the 128 gigs of internal storage. I know that some of you aren't gonna be happy about this, but the phone doesn't take SD cards. However, we still have like 115 gigs of free storage, and that's more than enough. Performance-wise, the phone is just spectacular. You can play any game available in the Google Play Store and the phone is not gonna slow down at all. You can open any app available in the Google Play Store and the phone is not gonna slow down. And you can have as many apps as you want running in the background and the phone is not gonna slow down. So it's an awesome phone. Size-wise, the phone is not too big, it's just slightly bigger than a Samsung Galaxy S7, but again we have a bigger screen because this one has a 5.2 inches display. And talking about the display, we have a Super AMOLED display with a 1080p resolution as well. The colors look great, the blacks are super deep, and that's mostly because we have an AMOLED panel. The viewing angles are also great, but I wish the screen would get somewhat brighter because if you go outside in direct sunlight it is a bit difficult to see the screen. And lastly, the touchscreen sensitivity is on par with much more expensive devices, so I could easily compare this with the Samsung Galaxy S8 and it works just as well. On the front of the phone and all the way at the top we have the speaker. We also have a small notification light that you can barely see, and we have an 8 megapixel front-facing camera. The picture quality from the front-facing camera is also great and much better than I was expecting, and you can actually use the pictures that you're gonna take in low light conditions, and that's not something that we see every day. And of course the pictures that you've just seen were taken with this phone. And moving all the way to the bottom of the screen, there we have one single button, and that's also the fingerprint scanner. The fingerprint scanner is accurate every single time, but it's not the fastest that I've seen, and I'm comparing this with the OnePlus 5 just so you have a point of reference. The home button supports gestures, and it's also the back button and the multitasking button, and I know that's not something that we see every day, and it's definitely gonna take you a couple of days to get used to it. The phone's frame is also made out of metal, and that adds to that premium look and feel, and the phone is kind of light, it only weighs about 145 grams. Now, even though the phone is quite slim at only 7.5 millimeters, it still has a 3100 mAh battery inside. I was pleasantly surprised by the battery life that I was able to get from this device. I was able to get over 6 hours of screen on time and 2 days without charging the phone, which is really good for a phone that has the Snapdragon 820. And if that's not enough, the phone also supports OTG and fast charging, so charging the device from 0 to 100 is done in about an hour and a half, so very quickly as well. And there is more, the phone even has a 3.5mm audio jack, and the sound coming out of the audio jack is on par with much more expensive devices, so I could easily compare this with my Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. And we are finally moving to the back of the device. So the back, it's made out of glass, and since it's white it doesn't really show fingerprints, which is great. Now we also have a 13 megapixel camera that has optical image stabilization, we have the dual tone flash and the heart rate monitor. The phone also has a built-in health app, and since we have that heart rate monitor on the back and the phone can track your steps, it can measure all the activities that you do throughout the day. And speaking about sensors, the phone has all the sensors that you could possibly imagine, including a gyroscope, and all the sensors work good as well. And we are finally getting to that 13 megapixel camera on the back of the device. So first of all, the camera app, it's kind of simple, however it's very quick. We still have an HDR mode in there and a slow motion mode, and this is actually a short clip that I filmed with this device. It was my daughter playing in the park, but the slow motion does work pretty good. This phone has the potential of taking some really good looking pictures, however the dynamic range is not the greatest, so mostly for pictures that you're gonna take in brighter conditions, the phone doesn't really know what to do and all the pictures turn out quite dark. You can easily correct that by turning on the HDR, but don't have the HDR on auto mode because the phone doesn't know when to use the HDR, so have the HDR on at all times when you're in bright environments, and the phone will do really good for pictures. So all the pictures that you're seeing right now are taken with the HDR mode on. If you take any pictures with the HDR turned off in bright daylight conditions, the pictures just look very dark. And moving on to pictures taken in low light, well, you're gonna have to turn off the HDR whenever you're taking pictures in low light, because if you use the HDR mode, the pictures turn out too bright. So all the pictures that you are seeing right now are actually taken with the HDR mode turned off. And as you can probably see for yourself, they do look very, very good. So that's the downside to the camera. It takes a while to learn when to use the HDR mode and when not to use it. Now the 4K recordings, even though they don't look bad, the phone doesn't seem to have that much image stabilization, even though the lens has optical image stabilization. But here's a quick sample with a 4K recording. This is a quick 4K sample with this new phone that I'm checking out. I haven't seen any settings for electronic image stabilization or optical image stabilization, so I'm gonna assume for now that we don't have any type of stabilization. And from the looks of it and how shaky everything looks, we probably don't. So let me just pan this around. So it doesn't look too bad, at least what I'm seeing on the screen right here. Another thing that works really well for this device is the GPS unit inside it. So it only takes like a second to find your location. Once your location is found, the phone doesn't lose it or anything like that. So using Google Maps or any other navigation app works very well. Moving on to connectivity, well, the phone doesn't have NFC, and I really wish it would have had NFC because I do love using Android Pay. Aside from that, the phone can connect to 4G networks, and it also supports dual band Wi-Fi, and the speeds that I got over the 4G network and over Wi-Fi are great as well. As I mentioned earlier, all the apps that you're gonna use on this device work absolutely amazing, and I could easily compare this phone with my Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. So for example, using Chrome, zooming in, zooming out, everything that you're gonna do works very, very fluidly. Social media apps also work very good, so if you use Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, they all work very, very well, and they load quite fast as well. Moving on to the YouTube app, because we all love watching videos on YouTube, the maximum resolution that you can select is 1080p at 60 frames per second, and all the videos that I watch at that resolution do work very well as well. And on top of that, multitasking also works very good, so you can keep as many apps as you want running in the background and the phone won't have any issues with them. And to actually switch in between apps that you have running in the background, you just swipe your finger on the home button, so it's a very cool feature. Moving on to the operating system, so unfortunately this phone is using Android 6, and I highly doubt that this phone will ever see an update to Android 7. Now on the bright side, since we have the Snapdragon 820 and there is a lot of support on the XDA forums, you could easily install a different ROM. The UI, even though it's not my favorite in the world, it's very quick, so I haven't really seen the phone slowing down at any point, and it also has some interesting features like swiping up to access the quick toggles, which is something that we don't see every day. So it's definitely gonna take you a couple of days to get used to the UI, but once you start getting a hang of it, you're actually gonna see that you're doing things very quickly. Now the settings app, it's also a bit different than anything that we've seen in the past, and once again it's gonna take you a while to figure out where everything is hiding. And it's time to conclude this video, so if you're looking for a phone that has great performance and a low price, this is probably the way to go. I mean, it's gonna take you a couple of days to get used to the camera and how to use it to take good looking pictures, but the camera has a lot of potential and you can take some very good looking pictures. Aside from that, the battery life is great and better than a lot of other flagship devices, and I definitely recommend this phone mostly for this price. I mean, getting this phone for like $270, that's just insane. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.